Thank you. Hello to my friends back there. Good to see you. This is my little part of history. In 1964, just weeks after President Kennedy was assassinated, I joined the Army. I was 18 years old. I was trained as a heavy equipment mechanic and assigned to the 84th Engineers. One of the mysteries of life is that when you are living in the real world, you do not know what part of history you are partaking in. Example, as a 10-year-old in 1956, when I enjoyed listening to Elvis Presley sing Hound Dog, I did not know that I was listening to the roots of rock and roll. An example, I did not know that 9 years later, on a June day, I would have the distinction of being a Vietnam veteran for the rest of my life. I did not know that day in 1965, getting off a troop ship and arriving on a foreign sandy beach, that I was part of the 1st Army Engineer Battalion to arrive in Vietnam. I did not know until years later that one of the initial assignments was to build a hospital that would support the casualties of the infamous and exploratory battles of the Ai Drang Valley in the months of October and November 1965. We were told, building the first building, that it would be an NCO club, complete with a bar, pool tables, and slot machines. During a press conference on July the 28th, 1965, President Johnson made an impromptu statement. I did not know, but he already knew. He was sending 44 combat battalions to Vietnam. Other reports stated 50,000 troops. That number is just a number until you see 58,000 names on a wall. Oh. I had already been in the country for 40 days preparing for the arrival of the Army and Marine combat troops. I'd been filling sandbags for at least 30 of those 40 days. While waiting for the construction equipment to arrive, we filled sandbags by day, and at night we stared across the concertina wire fences into the unknown dark Vietnamese villages. I did not know the people in the village were more afraid of the armed soldiers than we were of their roaming water buffalo. After I had filled my quota of sandbags, or maybe they had run out of sandbags at that time, I was assigned to driving a Jeep. It turned out to be a rewarding job for the next 10 months. I drove for World War II and Korean War veterans. I was always thankful for their experience. I was encouraged by my superiors to take advantage of my time in Vietnam. I traveled to Bangkok, Thailand, took R&R in Hong Kong, and had leave in Saigon. And during my first 3-day leave in Saigon, a military barracks just blocks from my hotel was bombed, reminding me of the reality of war. I was always thankful for the experience of seeing part of the world that I probably would have never seen. Also seeing that the rest of the world was not at war gave me some hope during my tour. The job of the officers that I drove for was to keep the numerous pieces of construction equipment operational. Part of that job was to work with local people and civilian contractors in making, trading, and buying parts. I viewed and experienced the war from an early perspective, and most of the time from a safe distance, witnessing firefights from 1 to 2 miles as MPs would stop traffic along the narrow roads, viewing bombs and napalm being dropped. I did not know that the defoliant chemicals being used by the engineers would be hazardous to generations to follow. Some are the very children with birth defects that I work with today, 49 years later. I enjoyed driving the Jeep, being able to drive into the country, meeting local people. And most of the time, I had my camera with me. I took many pictures, but there were 3 reasons that I didn't take pictures. First, my family. I sent most of my film back to the States to be developed. My mother was the first to see those pictures. I didn't want my friends to see all that I had witnessed. And second, my memories, good or bad. I tried to take pictures that would give me some good memories. The third, respect. Some pictures I remember I didn't take intruded on others' privacy. And also, I didn't know if my mail was being censored. Remember, we were at war. Loose lips sink ships. Many of the pictures that I took 49 years ago have turned and faded yellow. One of the pictures I didn't take remains very clear in my mind. A blue sky, green rice paddies, red dirt roads. The scene is taken while driving in a convoy, being escorted through the country, returning to the city. The vehicle directly in front of my Jeep was a South Vietnamese military flatbed truck, loaded with approximately 15 dead North Vietnamese soldiers. Sitting on top of the load were South Vietnamese soldiers waving their guns in celebration. At the time, I did not know the body count of the dead was the measure of success and victory. The soldiers celebrating were not only celebrating their own victory, but were also sharing with the American command success. Even though I've mentioned why I did not take that picture, bouncing along that red dirt road and seeing red blood being purged from those stacked bodies is as clear today as it was 49 years ago. I do know that the Army never ran out of sandbags. Almost every veteran I've spoken with in the past 49 years remembers filling sandbags. And that hospital in Quin Yon was the home of the 85th Evacuation Hospital. It became a major hospital in the area, serving military and civilians for a number of years. And that NCO club, eventually we did get it, complete with slot machines. It was inside a tent surrounded by sandbags. In 1966, when I came home, I viewed the war as the world saw it on television in black and white. Today, when I return to Vietnam, I'm witnessing a part of history where the country is in full color. The sky seems a cleaner blue, the dirt has a deeper red, and the green seems peaceful. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. In 1956, I did not know, on that June day, as I was listening to Elvis Presley, that the first American Vietnam War casualty, Richard Fitzgibbon Jr., was killed. And I did not know 9 years later, on a September day in 1965, that his son, Richard Fitzgibbon III, was killed in action in Vietnam. They are one of 3 father and sons to die in Vietnam and have their names on the Vietnam Memorial Wall. This weekend, let us remember the fallen veterans. And thank you for patiently sharing with me my little part of history.
Yeah.